My voice cracked a little bit there because of all the excitement of singing this melody. Hello everyone, you are watching the Beats Save the World YouTube channel. And for today's video, I want to go into why I find Avicii so inspiring and why he continues to be one of my biggest influences. Avicii is actually the musician who most inspired me to get into electronic music, and I'm still just so fascinated with his work to this day. So I want to give 3 examples of why I think Avicii is so iconic and what we can all learn from him. What inspired me to do this video is that I saw this really old tutorial on how to recreate levels that someone did, and then the title of the video though was like something like deconstructing a classic. And then if you look at the comments that were from around that time, people were saying, oh, I think it's too new to be a classic, you know, like it just came out recently. But then if you look at the comments that are more recent, people are replying to that saying, you know, it's 2020 right now and it's definitely a classic, or maybe it was 2019. So now that some time has gone by, I guess Avicii's songs have officially reached that level of truly being classics. So why is that? Why is Avicii's music, quote, a classic, whereas maybe some other musicians who were around at that time may not have had the same kind of staying power? The first thing that I really think about when I look at Avicii's music is I think it was very melody driven, and I really like that. So a lot of other electronic musicians around the time, they focused a lot on texture, which is amazing. Electronic music gives you so much access to designing your own unique textures for your songs. And Avicii had some cool textures too. You know, he had some sounds that he would go back to. But that's not the first thing I think of when I think of an Avicii song. I don't think that he had like the most cutting edge sound design or anything like that. What I think of is that the melodies that he made were just so anthemic and so singable, you know, like it feels so good to just sing them with your own voice. I mean, think about it, like da 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 da. My voice cracked a little bit there because of all the excitement of singing this melody. Like it feels so good to sing that melody. And it's just so anthemic, you know, there's just so much power, so much triumph, so much inspiration. I mean, there are so many, like another one of my favorites is na 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 na. Like they're just so beautiful. And then of course also na 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 na. I mean, they're endless. Or, okay, then there's also, let's hope, will I get copyright striked for singing these melodies? I guess only one way to find out. I love that You Make Me as well. How does You Make Me go? Da 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 da. That one, that's an amazing melody too. So all of these melodies, like they're just so triumphant and so singable, and I think that that's something that Avicii was uniquely amazing at. So that's point number 1, is just that it was so melody driven instead of focusing so much on texture and production, which were solid, but just like the fact that he focused, I think, on the melody first, kind of like Kurt Cobain in a way. Because I remember, so Dave Grohl has said that when Kurt Cobain was writing a song, he would always say melody first, lyrics second. And I guess the way Avicii, you know, in a similar way kind of approached melody, it seems like he was more like melody first, production second. He never actually said that, but that's kind of how I interpret his work. I'm not sure if he, you know, ever knew who Kurt Cobain was. I mean, he probably did, but I think they arrived at that conclusion independently. So, point number 2 of why I think Avicii was so iconic. I think he was so good at showing us that simplicity can be beautiful. Now, I'm all for progressive music. Like, I think it's really cool to experiment with cool chord progressions, to use notes that are outside the key. But one inspirational thing we can take from Avicii is that just because something is really progressive and something is really outside the key, it doesn't necessarily mean that it sounds good. Because Avicii was able to take ideas that were so, like, simple and so, you know, not necessarily, I mean, I know his music style can be called progressive house, but the melodies themselves, they weren't like this crazy jazzy, suspended Lydian chord or anything like that. And yet, to me, it's not boring. It's very interesting. I mean, maybe not everyone finds it, but he showed us that you can within simple chord progressions, like most of his songs, you know, they're using simple diatonic chords. Within those, you can just get such epic ideas. And it really shows us, like, if you can't make a simple song sound good, then, like, I think that that's what you should focus on as a songwriter before you're trying to add all of this other stuff. I think it is good to add all this other stuff. It's really good to experiment with your songwriting. But understand, you don't need that to make a good song. That's not necessarily what makes a good song. It's really about how does the music make you feel. And I think you can get so much feeling with surprisingly simple ideas. So being able to write something elegant that doesn't require a ton of production, that doesn't require a ton of really interesting notes, I think that that's a skill that's worth developing, and it's something we can remind ourselves from time to time. So that was point number 2. The third reason why I think Avicii was just so awesome and so iconic is because he was so good at using call and response, okay? This is kind of going back to the melodies thing, but the reason I think Avicii's melodies, part of the reason why they're so anthemic and so memorable, is his use of call and response. Think about all of them. Okay, so it's almost like, and this is something that Nicky Romero was kind of talking about in his video where he explains how they made the song I Could Be the One. It's like most of Avicii's melodies have a question and then an answer. Like, think about it. Okay, wake me up. Da 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 da. Question. Da 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 da. Answer, right? And it's not just one song. Okay, levels. Da 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 da. Question. Da 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 da. See how the ending is different, right? The way you make an effective call and response is you have the melodies be clearly related, but there's something that's a little bit different to feel like it kind of closes it. It's like in a sentence. When you're speaking a sentence, it's like you're saying, so when I went to the grocery store, then I got what I needed. So you see how, like, you kind of start the sentence a certain way, and then in the second half of the sentence, you're having parallels to what you said at the start, but then you kind of end it a bit differently, and that makes them seem like a complete statement, and it really adds a lot of power. And then another example, I Could Be the One, right? Da 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 da. That's what Nicky Romero was talking about. That was the question, and the answer is da 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 da. So I think that using call and responses is just a way to make your melodies more interesting, and it's something that Avicii was super good at. So those were my 3 points on why I think his music is so enjoyable and so iconic. If you have some other reasons, leave them in the comments below. I'd love to hear your opinion. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great day and continue making music. You can do it. See you.